Hey everybody, this is Jason Akers with Akers Pest Control. You'll have to forgive me if my mic isn't the best tonight. I don't have my headset with my really good microphone on it. So just so you know, I'm out of town, up in Falls Church, Virginia, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to come on live tonight and still answer a few questions. I've had a few questions that were posed to me since the last live stream last week about see if I can find it here, pesticide residuals and why bed bugs are not dying from, somebody hires a pest control technician, or maybe they do something themselves and they want to know why it's not working, why the bed bugs aren't dying right away, if it's poisoned, why isn't it killing them. And I'm also going to go over a little bit tonight about the dangers of pesticides to humans and pets. So first let's talk about, alright, so you've gone and you found that you've got some bed bugs in your house and you're concerned because you've hired a professional. They've come in, and please let me know, anybody who's watching the chat too, if you can hear me or you can't hear me, and so I know if I need to adjust my microphone or not. But hopefully everybody can hear me tonight. But so anyway, you've hired somebody, they've come in, they've treated your house maybe 2-3 times, and you still have bed bugs. Why is that? What causes that to be a problem? A lot of people ask me if their pest control guy is even doing a good job. A lot of times it has to do with the pesticides themselves. Pesticides have changed a lot over the years, and and with bed bugs with immunity issues, a lot of times you run into an immune strain of bed bugs that may be immune to one chemical or another. That's actually pretty normal with bed bugs, just like with cockroaches. A lot of times you run into an immune strain of roaches or an immune strain of bed bugs. And so what you have to do with that as pest control technician is, if you're having a problem where the bed bugs don't die and you're not getting any kind of this is just in my personal instance with what I deal with. If you go into a house and you've treated a couple times and you've noticed that the bed bugs just aren't dying off, usually that is because of a pesticide resistance, and so you have to use different chemical. That's normal. Sometimes they'll get less and less and less. So you'll go the first time, they'll be really bad. You'll go the second time, they won't be as bad. Maybe they're half as bad. Maybe they're only a quarter left. And then you'll go a third time and they'll be even less. That's normal too. So because the way that bed bugs reproduce, the way that they need a blood meal, okay, so bed bug eggs take about 6 to 10 days to hatch. So they're laid, they hatch in about a week and a half to 2 weeks, around there, ballpark figure. And then the nymph doesn't actually take a blood meal right as soon as they're born out of the egg. They wait about a week to 10 days before they take a blood meal. They can actually live 45 days without a blood meal at least. So it could be a month and a half before they even come out and bite you at all. And a lot of times the places that bed bug eggs are laid may be away from pesticide residuals. So when the eggs hatch, the bed bugs don't actually come out and bite you. And most pesticides have 2 week to a month residual. After 45 days, they're not going to be active anymore. And so generally what I tell my customers when I'm doing a bed bug initial is I'll say, look, it's going to take at least 3 months. That gives you 90 days. Well, actually, if you figure from the last treatment, it's about 120 days. You've got your initial, you got 2 follow-ups, and after that, after your last visit, you have another 30-day residual. So then if you still have bed bugs close to that last 30-day mark, you may need a follow-up. You may need 2 or 3 follow-ups. It can take, typically 3 to 6 months if you're using a chemical residual. That's normal. So it's not that your pest control guy is doing a bad job. That's just the nature of pesticide residuals on their own. Now, some people do use like a heat treatment, or they'll do, now with the heat treatments haven't been working, so they've been using heat plus pesticide. That's going to be more effective because you're going to kill a large number of live bed bugs that are crawling around that can't get away from the heat with the heat. But then you're still going to have a lot of live bed bugs in the wall voids, light fixtures, sockets, up deep inside mattresses and box springs and places that the heat may not actually be able to penetrate and get to. Those bugs die through a residual contact, with pesticide. So, yeah. You'll have to understand if you've been watching my shows lately, I've been dealing with this coughing fit for months. It doesn't seem like I can ever, get rid of this cough. Once I get a cough, I keep it forever. So you'll have to forgive me if I cough on camera. I'm going to try my best not to, blow your ears out with my coughing. And just like I said, let me know if you can't hear me very well or if I need to adjust my microphone. Also, another point I wanted to go over were, okay, so pesticide residuals. There are pesticides that bed bugs are immune to, mostly synthetic pyrethroids. If you do a little bit of research on pyrethroids, what they are is pyrethrins occur naturally in the environment, in chrysanthemums and marigolds, different flowers and trees and plants. And also, if you see me looking down like this, I've got a separate screen right there. Usually I use dual monitors. Right now I'm just using a laptop. And so I have to kind of look over here if anybody wants to ask me a question in chat or anything. I've got my chat open so I can answer any questions. If you have any, don't hesitate to ask. But also with pyrethrins, like I was saying, they're natural pesticides. People have been using them for thousands of years. Egyptians used them in their gardens, and they're still used today. Basically, a lot of organic farmers will plant chrysanthemums and marigolds and things like that near their crops. What that does is it keeps the bugs from crawling across their crops, because if they come up around those flowers, it'll kill them. When you take a pyrethrin away from a plant that produces it, it only lasts for a few minutes to a few hours. They dissipate in the environment very quickly, so they're not going to be very effective in the long term as far as residual. So what they've done, scientists have taken the molecule of a pyrethrin and they've enhanced it. They've actually changed the molecular structure, created something that's synthetic, but it's still very much like a pyrethrin. And that's what they call synthetic pyrethroid. And so what that does is it acts just like a pyrethrin, but it lasts longer. Very safe for people, pets. Why you can be overdosed on it. It can hurt you, but most of the time your body recognizes, oh, this is an invader, we need to get rid of this, and they kick it out of the system. That's typical of a pyrethroid. So it's not something that actually builds up in the system. The problem with synthetic pyrethroids and bed bugs is bed bugs are mostly immune to pyrethrins, which makes them mostly immune to pyrethroids. Same with ants. Ants are similar. Ants, they're mostly resistant to pyrethroids because they crawl across flowers all the time. They actually help open peonies and different things, ants do. So, that's something that a lot of times with pyrethroids, you're not going to be able to control an ant infestation. Most of your pesticides you buy at like Home Depot, Lowe's, any farm supply store, the pyrethroids are very common. They're in Home Defense, which is a Bayer product. Lots of different, if I could think of anything, any other chemicals off the mind, don't hesitate to leave them in chat if you think of any. But yeah, so you look, anything that ends typically in a thrin, bifenthrin, cypermethrin, permethrin, those are all synthetic pyrethroids. So you can look at the active ingredient of a label, and if it ends in a THRIN, that's a synthetic pyrethroid. It's very easy to tell if they are or if they aren't. There's a new family of pesticides out called neonicotinoids. Now, a neonicotinoid acts on a part of the nervous system typically that mammals don't have, so they're very safe around mammals, very safe around pets, and that's the category that Crossfire falls under. Now, there are some synthetic pyrethroids mixed in with Crossfire, but mostly it is neonicotinoid. Also, there is Alpine, WSG, Alpine Dust, and those are also neonicotinoids. The way they work is they typically attack a part of the nervous system that mammals don't even have, and they can be spread. If you've ever heard of Termidor, which is used for termites, now it's not a neonicotinoid, but a lot of your neonics work in the same way that Termidor does, in that the bugs crawl through it and it's like they become infected through a contact. So if they contact other bed bugs or crawl over other bed bugs, it spreads from one to the other. And the one that it spreads to doesn't even necessarily have to have crawled through the chemical for it to kill them. And that's why they're very effective. And to the best of my knowledge, now there are some stories out there being pushed that bed bugs are becoming immune to neonicotinoids. I have not once come across anything like this yet. Now, like I said, it's a possibility, maybe, but I've yet to see it. Even in homes that are heavily infested, that I've done that are heavily infested, I have seen remarkable results using Crossfire. It has taken me longer in some instances, past the 90-day mark, past the 120-day mark, but it's just because the infestation is so severe that it does take a little bit longer to get rid of them. And I really believe that that's because of the way that they don't need a blood meal. Also, adult bed bugs, excuse me, adult bed bugs don't actually need a blood meal, but once a year, once every other year, they can go a really long time without feeding. If they feel threatened, or if they can sense the pesticide in the area, even if you lay in the bed and they're nearby, they may not even come out until the chemical is no longer effective. So understand that that's another reason that you may still be having bedbug problems even after a treatment. You may be doing the best you can. You may be hiring, their pest control guy may be doing the best he can, but this is normal. It's the nature of the beast. I know we live in an era now where people like the instant gratification. They like to be able to get rid of their problems right away. Trust me, I wish I could get rid of every bug problem for people immediately. I'm not one of these guys that wants to keep people, chained along for as long as I can. I would rather get rid of their bugs as quickly as possible, because they'll tell their family and their friends, hey, call him, he does a really good job. That's the way I model my business. That's the way I've always modeled myself, is to try to take care of the problem at hand rather than continue to drag it on. So, and most pest control guys are like that. I honestly believe that there are a few, in every field that just try to, make as much as they can as quickly as they can. But that's just not the way that I do things. Also, one thing that you need to understand about bed bugs, it takes, like I said, it takes a little while to get rid of them. It takes a while to get rid of lots of bugs. We live with the bugs. They're everywhere. You put up a house, that doesn't keep the bugs out just because there's a house there. In fact, that's going to entice them to come in even more just because there's a house there. Spiders get in. They lay eggs. Ants always try to get in. If you've ever had a problem dealing with ants, which I have many times, had problems with ants in my own home, they get in every year. As soon as it gets warm, first thing that happens, ants try to get in the house. That's completely normal. You wouldn't say, my pest control guy came out and sprayed the ants. The ants were gone for a few days, and then they were back after 3 or 4 weeks. You expect that because the chemical's not going to last forever, and most people understand that. And it's the same way with bed bugs. If the bed bugs are hidden up and held up inside the wall where they can be away from the pesticide's not going to kill them, then whenever the pesticide is at its weakest point, just like with ants and spiders and other bugs, that's when they start coming out. That's when you see them. That's when they'll start biting you again in mass numbers, because they're trying to get out and get into you. Now, another way that a lot of people that I've actually noticed, I've actually experienced this myself. with a few customers, is the bed bugs could be coming in on something and you don't know where they're coming from, where they're continually a problem. You've got all stages of the reproductive cycle of bed bugs, all nymph stages, eggs and everything you're finding. And typically that is indicative of them coming in, whether it's the school system, libraries, anywhere people travel. You can get them in the movie theaters now. There's anywhere that people are going to sit sedentary, that say they're at home, and this is a good example with the movie theater. If they're at home, they got bed bugs on their couch. They crawl in their pockets. They go watch a movie. And the bed bugs crawl out of their pockets and they get on the seats in the movie theater. This is happening right now. It does happen in America. So understand that movie theaters are getting infested with bed bugs. Libraries are getting infested with bed bugs. The school system has been infested with bed bugs. And so if your children are going to public schools, there's a possibility they're bringing them home. If they're going to the library, maybe you've got a college student living with you and they need to go to the library every so often, they could be bringing bed bugs home from the library. Movies, we just got through with the Christmas season. A lot of people go out to the movies on Christmas Day. I did. I watched the new Star Wars movie. Me and my whole family went out to the movie theater. Didn't even dawn on me that the movie theater might have bed bugs. I didn't even think about it. But that could happen. So that's one way that you can think about, not necessarily that your pest guy isn't doing a good job, but that maybe you're reinfesting and not even realizing it, because people get infested with bed bugs in the beginning and they don't know how they get them. So it's very possible that you could be getting them from a source and you don't know where they're coming from. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with bed bugs. Also with resistances, this moves on to another subject too that I could talk about. Cockroaches. German cockroaches are immune to just about every pesticide you can buy over the counter. Bed bugs are getting to be just as bad, to where they are immune to just about everything that you could buy over the counter. That's a problem. When people can't eliminate the problem themselves, when you have issues where you've got poor, extremely poor, impoverished people that can't get rid of the problem, they can't hire help, those people aren't going to stay at home. They're not going to quarantine themselves. They're going to go out into the public. They're going to spread the problem. So I really think that it is a problem that needs to be addressed. Resistances, problems with pesticide resistances. And also I wanted to go over dusts. I have a lot of people in the last couple weeks have been commenting a lot about diatomaceous earth. And if you follow me on Facebook, I meant to do a tweet too, but I forgot about it. But I always post about a half hour to an hour before I go live every Friday night to kind of remind people, hey, I'm going live. Tonight I wanted to talk about diatomaceous earth as well as pesticide resistances. Now, diatomaceous earth is something that bed bugs do not get immune to. It will kill bed bugs. It's very effective on bed bugs. The problem is people are not applying it properly. I have several videos on my channel that discuss why you should never use diatomaceous earth for bed bugs. The main reason why you should never use it is because most people do not know how to apply it properly. There are people that use paintbrushes, and yes, that is a valid way to use diatomaceous earth, but it is not the most effective. What you want to do to treat properly with diatoms or diatomaceous earth is, for one, always wear a respirator. Always. Because you don't want to breathe it in. A lot of people, they like to throw around, oh, well, it's food grade. It's food grade diatomaceous earth. So if I can eat it, it must be healthy. It must be okay. Diatomaceous earth is not good to breathe into your lungs. What the amorphous part of diatomaceous earth won't hurt you, but the crystalline form will. And even food grade diatomaceous earth has crystalline diatomaceous earth in it. All diatomaceous earth has it in it. And what crystalline diatomaceous earth does, it won't hurt you if you ingest it, but if you breathe it in, it can cause respiratory problems. It can cause mucus glands to be inflamed. It causes runny eyes, runny nose, coughing and hacking. It can flare up emphysema, people with emphysema, people with asthma type problems. You don't want to breathe in the crystalline form of diatomaceous earth, and it is in all diatomaceous earth dust, all of it, no matter what it says on the label. It's in all diatomaceous earth. So wear a respirator and use a duster to apply it. You want to apply it so that it creates a cloud and it settles down, and then once it settles, you won't be able to see it anymore. You can take the outlet covers off of your wall and you can puff it in around your outlet, and it'll puff out like a cloud. I mean, it looks like a whole lot of it'll come out, but most of it actually goes into the wall. It goes in the wall. You don't want to put it, you don't want to touch your outlet, the little electrical prongs or anything like that on your outlet itself, because you don't want to shock yourself. But you'll put it around like the box. Like typically you can see the little box in the wall, and you want to kind of puff it around that box. And that way, when the bed bugs try to go into the wall to get away from your chemical, and this is the same for cockroaches too. Now I have a video on my Cockroach Mondays that I've been doing, the last one on baiting for cockroaches. That video, I actually go over how to bait for cockroaches inside a wall outlet. If you watch that video where I fold down the outlet cover and I actually look into the wall, around the outlet box, you can actually see the outlet box in that video. Now you can't always see that. A lot of times they take the mud all the way up to the edge of the outlet box on your drywall, but in this one it was actually in a wall behind a stove, and so I could easily get around the box. But if I were to dust there for like cockroaches or anything, you can do that, and the diatomaceous earth will kill the cockroaches when they try to crawl into that wall to get away from your pesticide. It's very effective. It's effective on roaches, and it's effective on bed bugs. That's how you want to address, treating for bugs, any bugs, with diatomaceous earth. Now, if you were to be treating for fleas and you wanted to use diatomaceous earth for fleas, that's really the only instance you'd want to use a brush, and you brush your carpet with it. And what that does is it forces the diatomaceous earth down into the carpet fibers itself, where the fleas are laying their eggs. So, but the thing is, fleas lay their eggs all over. They'll lay them in floorboards. They lay them in around baseboards and stuff like that too. So, that's going to be the only way that diatomaceous earth is going to work if you want to use a paintbrush. Because I did have somebody actually make a comment on one of my videos, and it's there. You can find it if you go through and look through my videos. You can find the comment. But he was talking about how he uses a paintbrush all the time in order to eliminate bugs with diatomaceous earth. That's really not the most effective way to get rid of them, especially inside a box spring or behind baseboards. You're going to be able to get the diatomaceous earth to go where you need it to go if you use a duster. The biggest problem that I have with people using diatoms is that they'll dust, but they put it out with like a spoon, or they'll sprinkle it, and it'll be all clumped up, little powdery lines up against the baseboards, just like if you've ever seen people do the same thing with boric acid. Either one of those, if they're ever dusted that way, it is not going to kill anything. The diatomaceous earth, you should not be able to see it after it's applied. It should be so fine that you don't see it. And what you can do is you can take the, typically if there's a crack. Now, if your painter has laid a caulk line across the top of your baseboard, like I'm looking at the baseboard in this room right now, I wouldn't be able to put diatomaceous earth behind this baseboard because the crack has been caulked all the way along the entire top of the baseboard, and it's all been painted white, and so you can't actually see a crack. That's not always the case. If there's a crack on the top of your baseboard where it joins up to the wall, you can dust behind that with diatomaceous earth. It's effective there, in spots like that. You don't want to put it all over the place because you don't want to stir it up later when you're going through the room, running your vacuum or whatever. You don't want to be stirring diatomaceous earth up into the air where you can breathe it. You want to put it places where you can't breathe it. Like I said, inside your box spring, it's going to be safe in there. You're never going to breathe it in there. Behind your baseboards, in your wall covers, your outlets, places where you're not going to breathe it. that's where you want to apply diatomaceous earth. That's the most effective place to have it. And I know a lot of people, you know, they say, oh, well, he's in pest control. That's why he doesn't want you to use diatomaceous earth, because it's something you can do yourself. You can buy every pesticide that I use yourself without a license. The only pesticides that I use that you can't use, that are restricted use, that you have to have a license for, I have one. Out of everything I use, one is restricted use, and it's rat poison. Everything else that I have is not restricted use. Everything I use you can buy over the counter. You can ask me, I will tell you what it is and how to get it and where to purchase it. That's not a problem. I don't mind sharing all this information with you. It's what I do. That's why I'm here. But I just want people to know, this is why I don't agree with people just going out and using just anything. You know, you don't go out and just spray pesticide and expect it to work. You need to know how to use it and how to use it properly. Now, I know I've been vacant this whole week. I haven't really done any videos this week at all. This is my only video I've done this whole week. I've been in and out of, we've had a lot of snow. We've been driving back and forth and dealing with weather, and I just haven't had time. So I'm really sorry I haven't gotten any videos out this week, but I do have one in the making. I was going to do how to apply pesticide for cockroaches on my Cockroach Monday, but I actually think I'm going to show people how to use a dust instead. I get a lot of requests on how to properly use dusts, and I do use diatomaceous earth, so I'm going to show people how to use it and how to use it properly, because there's a lot of videos on Facebook, on YouTube, on all these social media platforms, and they are not telling you how to use it properly, and it is not going to work, and it's just going to keep you buying it over and over and over, and it's and you know, it's just going to keep you frustrated. And I'm going to show you how to use it, and that's coming up hopefully Monday. If I can get everything to work right the way I need it to, I'm going to get the video out Monday, hopefully. But like I said, I'm out of town this weekend. It may not be Monday. I might just have to make it come out Wednesday and just have it say Cockroach Monday, but it's a Cockroach Monday video because it has to deal with how to treat for cockroaches. But you know, it's the same exact way to treat for roaches as it is to treat for bed bugs. So I'm going to show you how to do it and how to do it right. Also, if there's any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. I got chat here for a reason. If you don't want your question answered, you know, in the chat, you can always tweet me. I've got a you can tweet bug pictures to me at GreenAkersPC. I've got a hashtag bedbug show there, so that I can find your tweet. If you tweet me, it'll come up on my iPad here, so I'll know. And then I won't, you know, if anybody tweets me a question, I'm not going to say your name live on the air. If you live chat it, the chat's there, so everybody's going to see your question if you chat there. So just so you know. Well, that's really about a half hour worth of information that I've given you tonight. I really didn't have a whole lot scheduled. Usually by now I've had a few questions about, you know, bugs and different things. If there's any questions on what we've gone over tonight on pesticide residuals, why bed bugs don't die right away from pesticides, if there's any questions about, you know, diatomaceous earth, how it's applied, how to use it, where to use it, what it's good for, what kind of bugs it kills, I don't mind answering any questions that you have about anything like that, or any questions you have about anything else. If you have any questions about spiders, you know, that's one thing. The black widow spider, she lays about 500 eggs per egg capsule. She can lay 2 or 3 of those a year, depending on when she gets start laying. That's 1,500 spiders a year. That's one thing. That's a bug right there. You know, it's a good example of something that has lots and lots of babies that spreads really, really quickly. People don't realize they can spread that quickly. But if you have problems with black widows getting in your home, your neighbors have problems with black widows getting in their home. They may not find them, but they've got them. Everyone typically has them in a general neighborhood. They like to concentrate in neighborhoods. And so when you treat for spiders, a lot of times you're having to treat 2 or 3 months in a row in order to catch all the eggs and the hatch cycles and things like that. Same with bed bugs. with bed bugs, you treat the first time, you may kill a whole lot of bed bugs. And you may notice, this is one thing too. My wife was actually telling me this on the way to where we're at right now. She was talking to me about this, and she's like, it's important that people know that you need to remember what they were like when you first got bed bugs. Take pictures, record things. Remember, so it's easier to remember, oh yeah, I remember how bad they were. Remember, that was awful. Take pictures of your bed sheets. Take pictures of the, whatever you call it, the little sheets and stuff that hang down. What do you call them? The bed skirt that get those little blood drops. If you know what I'm talking about, the little bed bug droppings and the blood drops and stuff on your pillowcases. Take pictures of that stuff before you launder it so you can remember what they were like. And then in a month after your pest control guy's been there for a while, take another picture just so you can show yourself in the future. You may still have some residual bed bugs, but you can look back and you can say, well, he did better this month. It was better, and it was better. They're better still. I still have them, but they're getting better. That way you understand that, yes, the pest control guy is doing their job. Because, and this is just to show, mainly just to defend pest control guys out there, and myself included. I'm not a miracle worker, and nobody is. And I know I've gotten the blame a lot. When people try to, I make some very hefty claims. My record in almost 30 years of pest control, 29 years actually, exactly 29 years almost. I've been dealing with pests for a long time. And my track record with bed bugs is 3 months. That's my typical treatment. But it can take longer. I don't like people to get the impression that I'm a miracle worker, but it can take longer than 3 months. I don't want people to think that I could get rid of them in 3 months every time. I've been in some really heavily infested places that it has taken longer than 3 months. That's, but when it's really heavily infested, you expect to take a little while to get rid of a bug problem. You'd expect the same thing out of roaches. Roaches can take 6 months to a year. Yeah, then that's normal. But that's just because of the way that they breed and the way that they, their resistances to pesticides. Jimmy asks, okay, I'm late. Oh, that's fine. What's the advantage of crossfire aerosol versus the concentrate? Actually, I don't think there's any advantage. The aerosol is going to be able to get to places kind of like dust will. You can use it with a tube, like the way I explain it to people, like a WD-40 tube. You get those little tops with the little tube that goes in there, and then you can actually use it like a flushing agent, and you can try to chase them out of the cracks. One thing about bed bugs is they don't like movement at all. You can use forced air to scare bed bugs out. You can, to try to force them out. Same thing with roaches, are the same way. So they don't like a lot of movement. They don't like air and stuff. So, but the aerosol is crossfire. It is a residual. You can treat in areas with that where your liquid may not be able to penetrate. Yes, you may be spraying, like, for example, if you turn a sofa upside down, if you ever looked underneath a sofa, you peel up like the cloth fibers and stuff, and you pull it back and you look up inside it, there's all these boxes and stuff in there where they've nailed the sofa together. A lot of times you can't get the chemical to actually go up in those cracks where those boxes are like nailed together. You can use the aerosol to get to those places. That's really, really beneficial. You can force that chemical in that crack. What I tell people when they do a clean out for themselves, if you have to ask, does that crack need to be treated? Treat it. Because it's a crack and crevice treatment. Put chemical there. If there's chemical there, bugs can't live there next month. So that's how thorough you need to be. If it's a crack, treat in it. So, if that answers your question. I hope I answered your question. They're both good tools, basically what I'm trying to say. If you get the aerosol, aerosol's good. If you get the concentrate, concentrate's good. If you get them both, then you've got something that you really have you're a force to be reckoned with when it comes to the bed bugs. Now, I personally don't use the aerosol. I use a dust. And so if you take your duster and you push it up in the crack, you can dust in the crack, and that's going to force it. Use forced air to force your dust up into a crack. So I typically use a dust for that, and a dust will last longer than an aerosol because it's a dust residual. And so dust, especially if it's got diatomaceous earth mixed in, which alpine dust does. So if you use like an alpine dust up under furniture in places, it's going to last a lot longer because it's a neonicotinoid, but also the bulk of it's diatomaceous earth. So if the neonicotinoid doesn't kill them, diatomaceous earth definitely will. So, like I said, if there's any other questions, don't hesitate to ask. I think I've gone over just about everything I really had written down here. I try to hit a few talking points each time that I do a show. I typically have about a half hour worth of information planned, and if there's any questions or anything that come up during the show, my shows typically last about an hour to an hour and a half. Just so you know, if you're really interested and you like the shows, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel so you can see me next week. I do a live show every Friday night at 8. I wish I could go at 8 o'clock, but 10 p.m. on Eastern time. So, when will the show for traveling take place? Well, I haven't actually got a schedule for that yet. I do have one that's planned, but I mean, we could talk about traveling tonight. And I mean, I've talked about traveling a lot on my live streams. That's a question that comes up. I know, Westwood, you asked that question I think last week. But yeah, the traveling, actually what I'm planning on doing is I'm planning on doing a trip, and I'm going to stay in several hotels on my way up to what's that state? Minnesota, yeah. And I'm going to stay in a bunch of hotels, different ones, you know, cheap hotels, expensive hotels, all the way up, just to show that bed bugs can be anywhere. I am pretty sure I'm going to find bed bugs, but we're going to find out anyway. But I am going to do that, but that's closer to summertime. I usually take a vacation in the summer. Me and my whole family, we usually will go. It's when my wife, it's easiest for her to get off work, and so we all go together, and we'll take the whole family. We'll close business down for about a week, and we take a vacation. And so that's when we're planning on doing it, is we're going to travel up through northern part of the United States up to Minnesota, Wisconsin, and visit different places on the way and find out, you know, just basically a family vacation, but to show people how you can vacate. You can go on vacations and not have to worry about bringing bed bugs home with you, and this is how you do it. So I haven't actually gotten that scheduled out yet, but when I do, trust me, I'm going to be putting stuff on my channel to let you know. But I have had a couple of shows that I have put on that I've asked for people's input. I want to be able to interview people. I already have one interview that I've already done. I've yet to splice it together, but I'm going to make a little trailer to try to explain to people what I plan on doing. I can blur your face so nobody has to know who you are, but basically what I want to know is I want to know what you've put up with, what you've been dealing with when it comes to property management, if you've gone on vacation, found bed bugs, how you were treated when you approached management. I need this information because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show people how to protect themselves, what you can do to protect yourself, how you are in control when you're dealing with poor management of hotels, poor management of property management. If it's a place you live in, how can you combat the people that basically don't care about your well-being, your livelihood? And so, and to landlords too. If you're a landlord and you want to speak up for yourself, if you've got a problem with tenants bringing bed bugs in, if you've cleared apartments, if you've taken every step that you've needed to take in order to ensure that you don't have bed bugs, yet people continue to bring them in, I want to hear from you too. I want to hear from everybody, and I want to compile it together and make a nice, crisp, clean YouTube video that people can watch and learn how to protect themselves from the growing epidemic that is bed bugs, because they're everywhere. It's why I have this show. You know, I started my channel a year and a half ago, and the first video I did was a bed bug video. I had no idea that a year and a half would go by and here I'd be sitting here doing live streams answering people's questions about bed bugs. It was mainly a way to get information out there where people understood about heat treatments and the problems I was facing dealing with people that weren't doing heat treatments, whether they were doing them properly or not. That's up in the air. But yeah, actually, Westwood, there are lawsuits in effect all over the country against property management and against, see, here's the problem. Let's play devil's advocate. I'm a landlord. I own a house. And, which I don't, but let's say I was. I'm a landlord, I own a house. I have a problem where I have tenants that have brought bed bugs in. I didn't bring the bed bugs in the property because I don't live there. So either the tenant brought them in that vacated the property, or the tenants brought them in when they moved into the property. What do I do? All right, if the tenant that moved in moves into an already infested property that has bed bugs in it, it's not their fault. It's not my fault as a landlord. It's not my fault as a landlord that these people brought the bed bugs in, but it's also not the fault of the tenant that the bed bugs were already there when they moved in. And it very well could be that no one knew the bed bugs were there, that the other tenants decided to move out without telling anybody, and now you've got this bed bug problem. The problem is that, I mean, this is, the thing is, the landlord just needs to bite the bullet and pay for the bed bug treatment. In that instance, it actually does fall on the landlord. It's the landlord's responsibility to ensure that the property is livable by the tenants. There have been cases locally here where the housing authority has come in and actually threatened condemning a landlord's property because of bed bugs. Now, bed bugs don't carry any pathogens or anything like that. They're not going to kill you. They're just a nuisance. But it's something that property management has actually come in, not property management, but a housing authority has actually come in and said, look, if you don't take care of this problem, we're going to condemn your property. You're not going to be able to rent it. No one's going to be able to live in it. It's going to ruin your investment. So the truth is that the property management needs to take care of the bed bug problem, first and foremost. Now, let's say your tenants move out and they left it infested with bed bugs, just like in this same scenario. How can you protect yourself as a landlord? All right, you go out and you hire a bed bug sniffing dog, and the dog can come in behind the tenants, sniff around all the outlets, sniff around all the baseboards, and tell you if there's bed bugs in that property or not. They can do that. They'll trigger on the bed bugs and they won't clear the property. And boy, I am getting, where is that? You know, that was supposed to be, I don't have my phone. I thought I had my phone. I hope that's not a tweet. Let's see. Bear with me here. I know I've got my Twitter set up here. But anyway, man, that really threw me for a loop. I had it. What? Okay. Sorry. I don't know what's going on with this thing. Tweets. Okay. Nope, no tweet. Sorry. Must have been a YouTube. I'm subscribed to a lot of people. All right, so you're the landlord. You take a dead bed bug dog. The bed bug dog now has triggered that bed bugs are in the property. You know that it was the past tenants that left the bed bugs. So then what you do is you don't give them the deposit back. They don't get their deposit. You take the deposit. You still have to pay for a bed bug treatment because you can't have people move in if you, I mean, you know the bed bugs are there. All right, so now what do? You can allow for your tenants, the people moving in, to understand that yes, there are bed bugs here. We understand there's bed bugs here. We are doing the best we can to eliminate this problem. Here's our receipts. This is where we've had dogs come in. We've had a treatment already done. We've got a contract with pest control. They're coming in. They're going to deal with the problem. We are addressing the problem. You can even offer like cheaper rent for a couple months till you get rid of the problem. Because the thing about bed bugs is they need a host. They need a host to drive them out into the chemical. They're going to come out and get in the chemical and die if there's somebody there to entice them to come out. Otherwise, they can lay up in the wall for a year or more and never die. And you don't want to leave if you're a landlord, you definitely don't want to leave your property vacant for a year, 2 years. You're trying to make income off of this property. Otherwise, it's just a waste of money. So, Westwood said, that is tricky if you are a landlord. Some people tell you to get properties, but if it's bed bugs, roaches, that could be expensive to clean it up. You're right. That's absolutely right. I know people that spend a fortune in roaches and bed bugs all the time. This is another reason to learn about bed bugs, because if you want to buy properties to have rentals, this is something to consider. That's a good point. That's absolutely right. So, but you know, also, if you're a tenant and you're renting a property and you bring in a couch off the street, or you get a used mattress, you bring bed bugs into the property, you really should get rid of the bed bugs. It's not your house. You know, treat it like you're a guest in someone else's house. Even if you're paying rent, but it's still not your house. And so you should really try your best to get rid of the bed bugs in the house. It's not the fault of the landlord that you brought a bed and infested a property. You need, you know, and in that instance, that's why I said the landlord has full right to your deposit. If you bring bed bugs in a property, they have to get the property rented. They take your deposit in order to deal with the bed bug problem. So understand that it's in their right to do so. Now, there have been cases where landlords or property managers have rented property knowing there were bed bugs in the property, not allowing the people to know that there were bed bugs in the property, and courts have ruled in favor of the tenant, and it has cost property managers, landlords, hotels millions of dollars. So it's you know, you compare millions to just a few thousand, it's a no-brainer. You pay for a few $1,000s and save yourself a few million. You know, it's outrageous expensive if a court actually sides in the favor of the tenant. So understand that is a very high possibility that'll happen if you don't tell people, you know. So, oh, and another thing too about property managers. Now this goes with hotels, apartment buildings. If one room in your apartment, or one apartment in your apartment complex gets bed bugs, treat all the adjacent properties to that one. Don't just treat the one and expect it to do away with your problem. If you treat the one, you'll probably spread them all around, especially if you do heat. Because if you heat one room, it's going to chase them to all the adjacent rooms. Hotels are notorious for this. Hotel walls are very porous. Typically, the wires are all interconnected inside the wall. And the bed bugs just go right in the wall and travel the wires. And they go from one bedroom to the next. So understand that you need to treat more than just one room. You need to treat a lot more. The Department of Agriculture actually put out a really good article a few months ago explaining that the biggest epidemic, the biggest problem with bed bugs is that not just property managers, but pest controls, they're all treating it as a single unit problem when it's really a building problem. The whole building needs some kind of a preventative treatment done. Now, I have a customer who I've been doing her house for years for pest control, general pest control. She ended up getting a bed bug infestation in her home. It did not end up being an infestation at all because I was doing pest control. The bed bugs came in the house. They died in piles in the house where she had put her luggage. She actually ended up putting her luggage. She has like an upstairs It's kind of like an attic where the house is built like a Cape Cod, so it's really, really steep in the very middle, and that's where her attic space is. And then she's got little doors off to her attic space in there, so she's actually got like a room upstairs in her attic. That's where she keeps her luggage. Bed bugs dead all over the floor. They come out of her luggage, died all over the floor because she has regular pest control. Regular pest control is very affordable. It is very affordable when you consider a pest control plan compared to a bed bug plan. There's no comparison. Bed bug plans are extremely expensive. It's a lot of labor. You're having to flip beds upside down and couches and everything. If you have general pest control, then all the pesticide residual is there, so that when the bed bugs come out of your stuff, especially if you go on like a vacation, and like what we're going to do, I plan on treating my entire house before we leave. That way there's a residual there, so that when we come home, if we bring bed bugs home in our luggage, hopefully that won't happen because I'm going to try to keep them from getting in the luggage. But if for some reason we do, they have nowhere to go. When they come out and they go to the baseboards, or they go to the wall voids, or they try to go somewhere to get away from the pesticide, they die. And that's important. You don't want to infest your home. You want to try to eliminate that. And really, with the way that bed bugs are so prolific, I'm horrible saying that word. They're so bad right now, it's an epidemic, that it's really a way more cost effective to just have pest control. And that's not just because that's what I do for a living, but it's the most sensible thing to me when you're thinking of, trying to operate on a budget. It's the most budget sensitive. It's really is. I try to be very cost effective. I found out I'm like $20 cheaper than a lot of the competitors around my area, but I'm making a living. But then I don't have a lot of overhead, so I don't have to charge as high a prices as what, say some bigger corporations may have to charge just to be able to afford their new trucks and, advertising and the things that they have to pay for. So think that too. When you hire pest control, try to deal with local, family run, small companies. Just because they're small doesn't mean they're not decent. You still have to be licensed. You still have to be insured in order to even keep your pest control license. You have to have business license and all that stuff just to be able to operate. And I'm just me. I'm a one-man show. I do really good work for people. I say I do. I hope I do. I hope my customers would speak for me. But I try to do the best job I can for people and be as honest and upfront with people as I can. And I don't mind teaching my customers how to do it themselves. Here I am on YouTube. Anybody can watch me. So if there's any questions, I'd like to answer any questions for anybody. Now, if there is a unit that has bed bugs, do you have to treat the whole unit? Yes, you do. You have to do it all, because if you don't, you risk spreading the bed bugs from the rooms that are treated to the rooms that are not. Like I said, if you have to ask, should I treat in that crack? Just do it. It's going to be better if you just do it. I knew a guy years ago. He used to work for my father, and he would do roach cleanouts, and he'd treat in all these cracks and everything, because you have to. You take everything out of your cabinets, treat all the cracks around the cabinets and everything. And I was asking him, I said, why is it that you treat all these cracks and you're so thorough and you do all this stuff? And he's like, well, because if the roaches are gonna, if there's a crack, roach can live in it. And if there's pesticide in that crack, yeah, the roach can still try to live in it, but he's going to die if he lives in it. If he goes in it, he's going to die. And so if the bed bugs are going to try to go into a crack, if there's pesticide there, the bed bugs are going to die. So the whole idea is you treat your bedrooms, you treat your sofas, you treat your your couch love seats, your baseboards, your everywhere that the bed bugs could possibly live, so that when they try to live there, they die. And that's going to be the most effective way to get rid of bed bugs. That's how I get rid of bed bugs. Now, I've got several customers that I have had to treat 3, 4, 5 times to get rid of their problem, but I've gotten rid of their problem. No problem's too small, no problem's too large. I can get rid of bed bugs. I just have to have the time to do it. It does take time, and I'm still cheaper than heat treatments. Even if I had to do 6, 7, 8 treatments. Still cheaper than a heat treatment. A lot cheaper than a heat treatment. Heat treatments are really expensive. If I had to come in with a dog to clear it, it's still cheaper than a heat treatment. But now, if there was any other questions, let's see, we're right at about 55 minutes or so. So we're hitting about an hour. I am out of town right now. I'm sorry about no green screen. Just good to see all these pretty pictures. So, but I am out of town right now visiting some family. So if there's any questions at all before I log out for the night, don't hesitate to ask. Like I said, you can always tweet bug pictures if you find a crazy bug. I love pictures of bugs. I can't tell you enough. I'd love to see all kinds of crazy pictures. You can tweet them at Green Acres PC. You can also tweet any bed bug questions to the exact same at Green Acres PC. You can hashtag it bedbug show if you have any questions at all. Why would you have to treat a unit 4 or 5 times? All right. Now, I went over this in the very beginning of the video, but let me go over it again because that's really what I wanted to talk about tonight is pesticide residuals. Pesticide residuals are different from one chemical to the next. For example, if you use something like Tempered, it says right on the label, you need to treat in 2 weeks after you apply it. So it's about an every other week process. So you're having to so pest control guys have to come out, they treat your house the first time, they have to come out in 2 weeks and treat it again, possibly 2 weeks and treat it again, and 2 weeks and treat it again. That's just 2 months, and they've already treated 4 times. Because that's how Tempered works. Tempered is something you have to treat every other week. If you use Crossfire, you're having to treat once a month because it's a 30-day residual. So you're coming once in 1 month and then twice in 3, and you may have to go 3 or 4 times over a period of 4 or 5 months. Now, the reason that you have to come more often, or not more often, I say that with Tempered, but if you're having to make more than 1 or 2 visits, is because bed bugs don't need a blood meal. I've heard that Baltimore was #1 in bed bug infestations when they rate that. Do they mean just hotels? It's probably, I don't know what that metric is based off of, if it has to do with hotels, homes, apartments, or what. I have no idea, just to answer your question quickly. But I'm going to get back to Sheila's question about the units. But the reason that you have to treat the unit more than once is because, or even more than 3 or 4 times. One, there are pesticides out on the market now that bed bugs are immune to. If you get into a unit, and let's say I came and I treated your property, and the bed bugs died really well, reacted really well to the pesticide, they died pretty quick, and only had treated like twice, which is great, honestly. That's good news. But then I go to your neighbor's house, or maybe, 3 or 4 blocks down the road, I treat their house, and I treat with the same pesticide, but the bed bugs don't react as well. It means they're somewhat immune to the chemical. So then you may have to use something different the next month, but you're not going to know how the bugs react until after it's been about 2 weeks to a month after you've applied. So then you come a second time and you're like, oh, that chemical didn't work as good as it did over at Sheila's house, so now I'm having to use something different, and you may run into a resistance again. All right, that's the way it is with cockroaches. It's beginning to get that way with bed bugs as well. Now, I haven't had that problem with neonicotinoids yet. Every treatment I do, they're less and less and less. I've yet to run into any resistance problems with neonicotinoids. So what to do? All right, if you go into an apartment and it is just heavily infested, all right, nymphs only need a blood meal every 45 days. So they have, meaning they have to eat within 45 days, at least within 45 days, or they'll die. Okay, so, and that's a ballpark figure. That's not an exact estimate. That's what they tell you if you have to order bed bugs. You can order bed bugs in order to keep the scent in your dog. If you have a bed bug sniffing dog, you have to have bed bugs to keep them trained. They tell you have to feed your bed bugs once every 45 days. So at least once every 45 days. Now, that's a long time. Crossfire only has a 30-day residual. And as it loses its residual, the bed bugs are able to make it further and further and further into the apartment. They may even be able to bite you a few times before they can retreat, and they may die, they may lay eggs. And so you're trying to break the life cycle. If they don't come out right away after you've treated, you may kill a whole lot of them the first time you go, but there's others that are going to be hidden away inside the box spring, on your bed frame, maybe in the walls, around your outlet covers, places like that. They may not even come out. They may not come out for 90 days. They may not come out to bite you at all. And if that's the case, you're going to need follow-up. And you may need 3 or 4 follow-ups depending on how bad the infestation is. If they are really out of control and they're really, really bad, which I have run into this several times, you may have to come back 4 or 5 times. The last one I did, I had to do 4 visits on, not the last one I did, it's been like a year ago. I did a bed bug job for a guy in Charlottesville. I had to do a 4th visit. It's the first one that I ever had to do a 4th visit on, and I really think it was because the bed bugs were coming from the neighbor's property. I do a regular monthly pest control on his house now. He has yet to have any more bed bugs at all. It took 4 visits, but he has no bugs. He doesn't even get spiders. He doesn't get ants. He doesn't get anything because I do a regular pest control maintenance. He said, the thing is, it's cheaper when you live in an apartment building to just pay for pest control than it is to have to pay for a bed bug treatment every time the bed bugs get in there, because bed bugs are expensive. And if for some reason he were to bring bed bugs in and he did infest his property, I don't charge him the full bed bug price because I'm already there. I'm already doing maintenance. It's not as hard because I know there's already a residual down. And so I just charge a little more just to be able to lift the mattresses and stuff like that and basically break my back for a day. And then I treat all those spots that I normally wouldn't treat for general pest control. So if that answered your question, I hope I answered your question. If there's anything else that you need me to clarify, I have no problem doing that for you. And my stream says I'm a little low quality right now, so I apologize if things have gotten kind of blotchy. So just let me know if you can or can't hear me, or if the quality's kind of degraded. And I don't think I'll be able to fix it, because it's like 11 o'clock. I would think I'd have really good service right now, but evidently it's a weekend and everybody wants to be on the internet. So, but yeah, so if there's any other questions anybody needs to ask before I hit the hay, I'm going to log out here. It's been about an hour, a little over an hour tonight. So, and I lost my chat. There it is. Okay. I ought to look into that metric, Westwood, and see if they actually consider hotels and everything. I think it's probably hotels, apartments, housing, everything added together. Just, the biggest issue with bed bugs, and this is I think one of the major problems with people getting bed bugs, is no one wants to admit they have bed bugs. And that's only going to make the bed bugs worse. Because if you're not willing to admit, it's like AA. It's a 12-step process. If you're not willing to admit you have a problem, the problem's only going to get worse. So if you've got bed bugs, you kind of need to admit you have a bed bug problem, or they're going to spread. Your friends are still going to come visit. Your family is still going to come visit. You're going to go and take them places. And if you don't start admitting that you got a problem, you're never going to get rid of your problem. It's just going to get worse. Or you're going to spread them around, and they're going to be bad on everybody else too. So, people, they're so worried about what everyone else thinks about them, and the stigma that comes with bugs. I've had people that have hired me to have ants in their kitchen. It's like, oh, I'm a clean person. I am really sorry that you have to see these ants all over the place. But it's like, they're ants. People get ants. Doesn't mean you're dirty. Doesn't mean you're nasty. It just means ants want to be in your house. They want to come in. They want to eat your food. I tell people, I say, it's just because you're a good cook that they want to come in and eat your food. So, bed bugs just want to bite you. They just want to eat you. And yeah, they're nasty. They get on your furniture and stuff, and they're not the most pleasant thing to have in your house. But, you know, like I was saying at the beginning of the channel, we live with the bugs. We have to try to eliminate them when we can, but we live with them. You know, the fact that we build houses and, you know, we have trailers and we have places that are really nice for the bugs to live is way better than living outside where the birds can eat them and all the other spiders and things like that can eat them. They just want to get in here and live with us. We have to try to keep them out, unless they start paying rent. Yeah, they start paying rent, and then maybe I could have a few bugs living in the house. But, so, well, I really appreciate everybody that came out tonight that watched my live stream. Like I was saying, if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to thumbs up the video, share it around all your social media, try to get the word out. I'm just trying to let everybody know that, you know, answer questions if you've got questions about bed bugs. If you need any help at all, I'm always here to give any advice that I can. So hopefully I've answered any questions, and if you have any others, like I said, don't hesitate to send me a tweet, or you can comment on the videos that I do. I've got lots of bed bug videos. I try to put all my bed bugs. I don't think I've been putting these into my actual bed bug videos because they're more of a live stream, and I don't want to just clog up my playlist with my live streams. But I do have playlists for bed bugs too. I've got about 17, 18 videos over there that you can go and watch, how to identify them and things like that. So don't forget to hit that up. Usually whenever my stream goes down, it takes about an hour or two for YouTube to catch up, and then I'll go into the description and I'll put the links to like my bed bug channel and stuff like that too, so you can check that out if you're really interested in looking at my videos on my playlist. So hopefully this has been a helpful video, and I'm gonna go to bed because it's late. Y'all have a great night. I really appreciate it. Thanks.